The film begins with a woman named Aris, living in a remote area of Iran. She is in a state of deep grief because her only son had recently passed away. Her son's death broke her insides. She was disappointed with life and felt as if her world had stopped. One dark and lonely night, while everyone was sleeping, Aries quietly put a small knife in her pocket, got out of her car, and drove out of the city. She was heading towards the mountains where her son was buried. She sat by the grave and spoke emotionally to her son, prayed for him, and then slowly walked towards a mountain. She intended to commit suicide, but as soon as she reached the edge of the mountain, a stranger came there. He learned that Aries intended to commit suicide. He started talking to her and tried to understand her heart. He said, "My name is Richard. I didn't come to stop you. I just wanted to talk to you before I die." Richard told her the story of a young boy. The boy was full of life, interested in everything. But one day he was going on a trip with his friend when they had a car accident. The boy survived, but his friend lost his life. After that, the boy was in shock for months. But then he realized how much his family wanted him, and they were waiting for him. He learned to appreciate life and tried to live again. Richard said, "Nobody wants to die. There are just moments of weakness which lead us into darkness. Now if you want, you can die. I'm going." Saying this, he left. Richard's words left a deep impression on Iris. She gave up her intention to die and went back to her car. But when she reached there, she saw that Richard's car was also parked right next to her car, due to which she could not even open her car door. Richard returned with an umbrella in his hand. He says, "I'll help you." Aries wonders why he brought an umbrella, even though it's not sunny. Suddenly, Richard attacks her with the same umbrella. It was an electric umbrella, which shocked Aries severely and knocked her unconscious. When she regains consciousness, she finds that her hands and feet are tied and Richard has put her in his car. She cleverly tries to call her husband on her smartphone, but Richard says, "There's no signal here. You won't be able to call anyone." Then Aries remembers that she had a knife in her pocket the night before. She slowly pulls it out and tries to cut off her tied hands. She continues to talk to Richard, and as soon as her hands are free, she immediately attacks him. Richard's car goes out of control and crashes into a tree. They both get injured. Iris tries to strangle Richard with the seatbelt, but he escapes. Iris attacks again, and they both fall out of the car. Richard laughs. "Did you think I was that easy? I gave you one injection. Your whole body will be paralyzed in 30 minutes. Hearing this, Iris's hair stands on end. As fast as she runs towards the forest, she begins to feel as if her feet are responding. Her legs also begin to feel numb. She hides behind a tree, but ants start crawling all over her. She screams in fear, and Richard finds her. To save her life, she drags herself into the river. Richard shouts, "You're going to die!" But Iris doesn't care. The flow of water carries her to the other side of the waterfall. There, she sees a farmhouse. She runs towards it with all her strength, but as she approaches the farmhouse, she faints. She can no longer speak or move. She can only move her eyes. After a while, an old man working on the farmhouse sees her. He asks, "What's wrong with you? Are you listening? Do you need help?" Aries signals with his eyes. She blinks once for yes, twice for no. The old man understands her signal and puts her in a cart and takes her to get help. As they enter their house, there is a sudden knock on the door. She immediately realizes that it must be Richard outside. She uses her eyes to try to convince the old man that there is danger. The old man also senses it and hides her behind the sofa. When the door opens, it is really Richard who is outside. He starts a new drama. He starts crying and tells the old man that his son is dead. His wife is in shock and paralyzed. He claims that he can't find his wife anywhere. At first, the old man is suspicious, so he tells him to call his wife. Richard lies that his phone was lost somewhere on the way. Seeing Richard's tears, the old man starts to soften a little, but at that moment, the phone falls out of Richard's pocket. The old man understands everything. Richard shows his real face and says, "If you have recognized me, tell me the truth. Have you seen Addis or not?" The old man threatens him that he will call the police, but Richard attacks him. He did not know that the old man is stronger than him. The old man resists fiercely and beats Richard badly. But Richard found a knife with which he stabbed the old man in the leg. The old man fell to the ground, groaning in pain. Richard took out a knife and stabbed him in the stomach, brutally killing him. Addis was watching all this from a distance but could not do anything. Since Richard had already killed, he now poured kerosene all over the house to destroy the evidence. Addis was alive but could not move. With great difficulty, he tried to open the window grill with his finger. Richard saw him and recognized that he was alive. He picked him up and put him in the truck. The truck belonged to the old man because he had left their car far away. Addis could not speak but could definitely hear. Meanwhile, his daughter calls. She says, "Dad, we miss you so much. Mom and I are going to come to you." Richard replies, "No, don't come yet. My work is not finished yet." The daughter is very stubborn and says that they are coming. Richard is stressed. At one point, his car almost has an accident, and then his car runs out of fuel. He arrives at a filling station and puts a cap on Addis so that no one can recognize his face. Addis tries with great difficulty to unfasten her seatbelt, but because of her paralysis, she can only move a little. There, a child sees her and senses that something is wrong. Before she can do anything, her mother takes her away. The woman becomes suspicious and reports it to the police. The police stopped Richard's car and asked, "We have received a complaint about this car. Can I speak to your wife?" Richard says, "She is sick. That's why she is behaving strangely." Meanwhile, Addis with great difficulty rolled down the window and said in a low voice, "Help me." The police officer understood everything. He also saw the injection in the truck that had paralyzed Addis. Richard realized that the game was over. He attacked the police officer with a heavy iron object and killed him. Then, putting his body in the car, he burned the car to destroy the evidence. Addis was now completely helpless, but his condition was improving. His ability to speak had returned. Now she began to engage Richard in conversation. She knew that Richard had a daughter, and she wanted to make him emotional. But how can someone who can kill someone, kidnap someone, be emotional? When Harris was not affected by Richard's emotional words, she injected herself in surprise. She wanted to use it to save herself. She tried to inject him under the pretext of distracting Richard, but the needle did not go into his leg properly. The medicine did not go in. Richard laughed loudly and said, "Poor thing. You are so weak. You can't hurt me," Richard said. "I had a great plan. At first, I wanted to take you to my house and kill you, but now my family is coming there, so I had to change the plan. Now I will take you to the riverbank and kill you. Actually, I wanted to torture you. I enjoyed watching you suffer, but my family ruined everything." Saying this, he dragged her to the riverbank and made her sit in the boat. Harat was sitting helplessly with half the strength of her body, but she was still thinking of a way to save herself. At that moment, she remembered what Richard had said, and suddenly, a new idea came to her mind. She said to Richard while crying, "There is a picture of my son in my trouser pocket. I want to see him one last time. Will you please take out that picture?" Richard hesitated, but finally agreed. As he bent down, Harris immediately took out his hidden knife and put it from under Richard's neck into his mouth. Richard began to tremble. He pulled out his gun to kill Harris, but Harris snatched the gun and shot him, causing Richard to fall into the water. Harris was happy. He had saved his life and killed a murderer. But the trouble was not over yet. The boat she was sitting in had a hole in it from a bullet, and the water was filling up fast. Harris's body was still paralyzed. He couldn't move. She started to sink. But fortunately, due to his paralysis, his body came to the surface of the water like a corpse. After some time, his body started to return to normal, so she swam to the shore. She started laughing. She couldn't believe that she had really escaped a psychotic killer. She was about to leave when suddenly she saw Richard coming out from the other side of the river, injured. He was alive but breathing his last and walked towards her. She could have called the police if she wanted, but she had decided that she would take her own revenge. She left Richard there. The film ends here.